Let's get something straight right from the start. Recovery is where the magic happens. Training provides the stimulus, but it's the time between sessions when you're not lifting that allows muscles to adapt, grow, and come back stronger. Too little rest, and you're just digging a deeper fatigue hole. Too much rest, and you're leaving gains on the table. So how do you find the sweet spot? Let's break it down. First, think about recovery as a balance between stress and adaptation. Every workout is a calculated disruption. You create micro-damage, challenge your nervous system, and deplete energy stores. Your body responds by repairing and reinforcing. But that repair takes time, and the length of that time depends on how hard you trained, your nutrition, your sleep, and even your training history. A beginner might bounce back in 48 hours. A seasoned lifter smashing a high-volume leg day might need closer to 72 hours or more. Second, pay attention to signs, not guesses. Soreness is one clue, but it's not the whole story. Performance is the real indicator. If you return to the gym and your numbers drop or movement feels sloppy, you're not recovered. Fatigue hides in your coordination, in the speed of your reps, and in how heavy the warm-up sets feel. Tracking that over time is far more useful than relying on "I still feel sore." Third, rest isn't just about sitting on the couch. Active recovery, light cardio, mobility work, even an easy full-body pump session can accelerate blood flow, reduce stiffness, and shorten the time you need before your next hard session. But here's the key: it must be low intensity. If you turn active recovery into another workout, you've missed the point. Finally, remember the big levers: sleep, nutrition, and stress management. 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep is non-negotiable if you want to grow. Adequate protein and total calories are the bricks and mortar of repair. And chronic stress from work, life, or anything else can lengthen recovery times dramatically. Training is stress. Your whole life adds to that equation. The more you manage the outside noise, the faster you bounce back. So how much rest do you really need? Enough to come back stronger, not just back to baseline. Watch your performance, fuel yourself properly, sleep like it's your job, and you'll find the perfect rhythm for consistent progress. When we talk about recovery, the very first thing to understand is that it's all about the relationship between stress and adaptation. Think of training as throwing a rock into a pond. The splash is the workout, the disruption, and the ripples that follow are the recovery processes that let your body rebuild and come back stronger. If you don't throw a rock big enough, you don't create a meaningful stimulus. But if you're hurling boulders day after day without letting the water settle, you just keep making waves and never let the system stabilize. That's the balance we're after. Enough stress to signal growth, enough time for the adaptation to actually happen. When you lift weights or perform any kind of challenging training, you're creating tiny amounts of muscle fiber damage, depleting glycogen, taxing your connective tissues, and loading your nervous system. Your body immediately starts a whole cascade of repairs. Protein synthesis ramps up, energy stores refill, structural support tissues adapt. None of this happens instantaneously. The rate of repair depends on how much damage you created and on how well you supply your body with what it needs to fix that damage. Train harder or with higher volume and the repair job is bigger. Sleep poorly or undereat, and the repair crew shows up late and underfed. This is why recovery windows are never one size fits all. A new lifter doing 3 sets of moderate squats might be ready to train legs again in 48 hours because the total stress was relatively small and their body is still very responsive. An experienced lifter hammering 10 hard sets close to failure is creating a much larger disturbance. They might need 72 hours, sometimes more, before the muscles, connective tissues, and nervous system are truly ready for another heavy session. The training age matters too. Beginners adapt quickly because almost any stimulus is new and exciting for the body. Advanced athletes need to push closer to their limits to spark further growth, which in turn takes more time to recover from. And it's not just the workout itself. Think about everything that affects how you respond to stress. Nutrition, hydration, sleep, even your daily life outside the gym. If you've been traveling, missing meals, or dealing with work deadlines, you're carrying a bigger total stress load. That means the same leg day you crushed last month might suddenly require an extra day of rest this month. Recovery is dynamic. It reflects not only what you did in the gym, but also what's happening in the rest of your life. Now, the tricky part is that you can't just guess this stuff. You need to observe how your body performs. If you're still sore but your lifts feel strong and smooth, you might be good to go. But if you come back to the gym and your warm-up sets feel heavier than usual, or you notice you can't hit the same numbers with solid technique, that's a sign the adaptive processes aren't finished. Those little drops in performance tell you that the balance between stress and adaptation isn't quite there yet. That's the signal to hold back a bit longer before you load the system again. Another thing people forget is that recovery isn't only about muscles. Your connective tissues, tendons, ligaments, joints repair more slowly than muscle fibers. You might feel ready because the soreness is gone, but your tendons could still be catching up, pushed too soon, and you're stacking stress on a structure that isn't ready, which is where overuse injuries start to creep in. It's not just about how you feel today. It's about whether every part of your body has had the chance to adapt. This balance is what separates smart training from just exercising. Anyone can go to the gym and hammer themselves day after day. The people who keep getting stronger year after year are the ones who know when to pull back, when to sleep more, when to add that extra rest day. They understand that the goal of training is not to see how much punishment you can absorb. It's to create a challenge your body can overcome, and then to let the adaptation unfold. So when you ask, how much rest do I really need? The answer starts with this principle. You need enough rest to allow the adaptive processes to finish, but not so much that you start detuning the system. That sweet spot isn't written on a calendar. It's revealed by your own performance, your own recovery signals, and your ability to keep stacking progress over time. Respect that stress-adaptation balance, and you'll keep moving forward. Ignore it, and you'll either spin your wheels or run yourself into the ground. Performance is the real truth teller when it comes to recovery, and it's a lot more reliable than any soreness or feelings you might be chasing. Soreness can be misleading. You can be sore and completely ready to train, or you can feel fine but still be under-recovered in a way that shows up when you try to actually move weight. What really matters is what the bar tells you and how your body moves when it's time to perform. Numbers and quality beat guesswork every single time. Think about it this way. Soreness is just one byproduct of training stress, mostly related to how novel the stimulus was and how much eccentric work you did. If you switch from back squats to walking lunges, you might be hobbling for days even though you didn't train that hard. On the other hand, if you've been squatting consistently for months, you might barely feel a thing after a heavy session, yet your nervous system and connective tissues might still be in repair mode. So if you're basing recovery on whether your quads feel tender when you poke them, you're making decisions off a very fuzzy signal. Performance, though, is direct. It's the ultimate readout of whether your body has finished the rebuilding job. When you walk into the gym and start warming up, pay attention to how those first sets feel. Are the weights that normally fly up suddenly moving slower? Do you feel clunky in your groove? Like the bar path isn't quite natural? Are you failing to hit the same reps at a given weight or needing extra rest just to match what you did last time? Those are red flags that your system hasn't fully bounced back. Recovery isn't just muscles knitting together. It's also your nervous system firing at full capacity, your glycogen stores replenished, your joints and connective tissues ready to handle force. If any of those pieces are lagging, you'll see it in the numbers and the quality of your movement. A lot of lifters overlook the subtle cues. Maybe you hit your planned sets and reps, but the bar speed is off. What usually feels crisp now feels like a grind. Maybe your balance is shaky, or you're struggling to stay tight in positions that normally feel locked in. Those are the early warnings that you're not as recovered as you think. Ignoring them because I'm not sore or I feel fine is how you start to accumulate fatigue that sneaks up on you. Over a few weeks, that hidden fatigue can lead to stalled progress or even injuries. Tracking performance doesn't have to be complicated. Keep a simple log of weights, reps, and maybe even perceived effort or bar speed if you have the tools. Over time, you'll notice patterns. If you're consistently able to match or beat your previous numbers with similar effort, you're recovering well. If you start to see repeated dips or you need a huge amount of motivation to grind through what used to be routine, that's your cue to pull back. Maybe it means adding an extra rest day, maybe dropping a set or two in the next session, or focusing on sleep and nutrition for a few days. The key is that you're responding to data, not guessing. This approach is especially important as you get stronger. Early in your training life, you can get away with sloppy signals because the absolute weights are lower and the recovery demands are smaller. But as you progress and the loads climb, the margin for error shrinks. Heavy squats, deadlifts, pressing big numbers, those all put serious stress on your nervous system and connective tissues. If you ignore what your performance is telling you and keep piling on volume because you don't feel sore, you're setting yourself up for a crash. Another thing to remember is that performance is specific to the lift or skill you're training. You might be fully recovered for an upper body session while your lower body is still lagging, or vice versa. That's why smart programming often rotates muscle groups in training intensities. It allows you to keep training hard in one area while another area is still adapting. Listening to performance cues at the exercise level helps you make those day-to-day decisions with precision instead of just following a generic schedule. It's also worth mentioning that performance includes mental sharpness. Recovery isn't just physical. If you notice your focus drifting, your reaction time slowing, or your motivation tanking, that's a form of under-recovery too. Heavy lifting requires coordination and mental drive, and if those are slipping, your nervous system is telling you it needs more time. Respect that signal. Taking an extra day now is far better than forcing a session and turning a small deficit into a deeper fatigue spiral. The takeaway is simple but powerful. Let performance guide your recovery decision. Track your numbers, pay attention to bar speed and movement quality, and treat dips as feedback, not as weakness. Don't let soreness or the absence of it fool you. When you can repeatedly hit your targets with solid technique and without feeling like every rep is a grind, that's when you know you're ready to push again. This mindset keeps you progressing while protecting you from the hidden fatigue that derails training plans. Over time, it teaches you to read your body like a coach would, using clear, objective indicators instead of vague impressions. That's how you turn training into a long-term game where gains keep stacking up year after year. Active recovery is one of those tools that sounds almost too simple to matter, but when you use it correctly, it can make a huge difference in how quickly you bounce back between hard training sessions. The big mistake people make is treating recovery like it means total inactivity, as if lying on the couch all day is the only way to heal. Sure, full rest has its place, but your body is built to move, and the right kind of gentle movement can actually speed the repair process rather than slow it down. The key is doing it in a way that increases circulation and promotes healing without adding extra stress that your system now has to recover from. When you finish a tough workout, you've created tiny muscle tears, built up metabolic byproducts like lactate, and slightly inflamed the tissues you just worked. Blood flow is your friend here because it brings in nutrients, oxygen, and all the raw materials your muscles need to repair themselves. It also helps carry away waste products that can make you feel stiff and sluggish. If you sit completely still, that circulation is slower. But if you keep things moving at a low intensity, think light cycling, brisk walking, easy swimming, you're encouraging that nutrient delivery and waste removal without adding the kind of muscular tension that causes more micro damage. The concept is simple but powerful. You're not trying to train, you're trying to pump fresh blood into tissues. Imagine you've just crushed a heavy leg day. The next day, instead of plopping on the couch and calling it recovery, you hop on a stationary bike for 20 to 30 minutes at an easy pace, maybe even break a light sweat. That gentle pedaling moves blood through the quads and hamstrings, helping flush out leftover metabolites and bringing in the amino acids and glycogen they need to rebuild. You get less stiffness, better range of motion, and often you'll feel fresher when it's time to squat again. Mobility work fits here too. Dynamic stretches, banded movements, or simple bodyweight patterns like lunges and air squats, done with zero intent to fatigue, can keep joints lubricated and muscles pliable. The movement primes your nervous system in a subtle way, reinforcing good patterns without digging the fatigue hole any deeper. Even something like a light full-body pump session with very light weights and high reps can serve the same purpose if you keep the intensity low enough. The moment you start to breathe hard or chase a burn, though, you're no longer recovering. You're just sneaking in another workout, and that misses the whole point. This is where people often get it wrong. They think active recovery is good, so more is better, and before they know it, they're turning their rest day into a secret conditioning session. The heart rate climbs too high, the weights get heavier, and suddenly the body is dealing with more stress rather than less. True active recovery should feel almost effortless. You should finish feeling looser and more energized, not tired or depleted. If you have to talk yourself into pushing through, you've crossed a line into training again. Active recovery isn't just physical either. Low-intensity movement can help calm the nervous system and reduce overall stress, which matters because recovery is about more than muscle fibers. Light activity boosts endorphins, lowers cortisol, and can improve your mood. A peaceful walk outside, some gentle yoga, or even playing a low-key sport like catch with a friend can double as both mental and physical restoration. Training is a form of stress, and your mind needs recovery just as much as your muscles. Another perk is how active recovery keeps you consistent. When you take a full day off and do absolutely nothing, it's easy to slip out of the rhythm of daily movement. A short, easy session keeps you mentally locked into the training lifestyle while still letting your body heal. You keep the habit strong without digging deeper into fatigue. That mental edge pays off when it's time to get back under the bar because you haven't broken the chain of daily action. Different people will gravitate to different methods, and that's fine. Some lifters love a light swim, others prefer a bike ride or an easy hike. The exact activity isn't what matters most. It's the intensity. The best active recovery is the one you enjoy enough to keep it genuinely easy. If you hate the bike but love a slow walk with a podcast, choose the walk. The more enjoyable it is, the more likely you are to keep it light and let it serve its purpose. Over time, incorporating active recovery can shorten the number of full days you need between serious sessions. You won't magically recover overnight, but you'll notice that nagging stiffness fades faster and you come into the next workout feeling more prepared. That means you can train with quality more often, which is the long-term key to getting stronger and building muscle. So when you think of recovery, don't picture yourself locked in a dark room, doing nothing. Picture movement, gentle, deliberate, restorative. A short walk, some easy mobility drills, maybe a light pump session with bands, or very light weights. No heroics, no hidden conditioning, just enough activity to get the blood moving and help your body do the work of repair, done consistently. This simple practice can add up to faster progress, fewer aches, and a much smoother training cycle. When people talk about recovery, they often jump straight to fancy supplements or high-tech gadgets. But the big levers are much simpler and far more powerful: sleep, nutrition, and stress management. These are the foundations. If you ignore them, nothing else you do will matter much. If you nail them, you've already solved most of the recovery equation before you even think about foam rolling or ice baths. Start with sleep. This isn't just about closing your eyes for a few hours. Quality sleep is where your body does its deepest repair work. During the night, growth hormone pulses, protein synthesis ramps up, and the nervous system resets. You can train like a maniac and eat all the protein you want, but if you're scraping by on 5 hours of restless sleep, you're leaving gains on the table and dragging out your recovery times. For most people, 7 to 9 hours of solid, uninterrupted sleep is the sweet spot. And no, you can't cheat the system with caffeine or catching up on weekends. Your body keeps score every day. Good sleep hygiene isn't complicated. Go to bed at the same time, keep the room dark and cool, and cut out screens or bright lights in the hour before bed. Create a wind-down routine that tells your brain it's time to switch off. Reading, stretching, maybe some easy breathing drills. If you can't get your sleep right, all the training science in the world won't save you from burnout. Next comes nutrition, and that's about more than just hitting a protein target, though protein is the centerpiece. Your muscles need amino acids to repair the micro tears caused by training, and a steady supply of high-quality protein throughout the day is what provides those building blocks. Aim for protein at every meal, ideally spaced evenly, so your body always has what it needs for synthesis. But don't forget total calories. If you're under-eating overall, you simply don't have enough energy to fuel recovery, no matter how perfect your macros look on paper. Carbohydrates refill glycogen, which is the primary fuel for hard training sessions. Healthy fats support hormones that drive the repair process. Micronutrients from fruits and vegetables handle everything from collagen formation to immune function. Skimp on any of these and you'll feel it in slower recovery and weaker performances. Hydration is an easy win that too many people overlook. Dehydration doesn't just make you feel tired, it slows nutrient transport and impairs muscle function. A good rule of thumb is to keep your urine light in color and to drink consistently through the day rather than guzzling huge amounts at once. Add electrolytes if you're training hard in hot conditions or sweating heavily. Your muscles are about 3/4 water, so think of proper hydration as part of the rebuilding material, not just a comfort measure. Then there's stress, the hidden load that sabotages even the most disciplined lifter. Training is a stressor, but so are deadlines at work, arguments at home, financial worries. Everything that spikes your cortisol and keeps your nervous system on edge. Your body doesn't distinguish much between a tough squat session and a tense meeting with your boss. It all adds to the same recovery ledger. If that ledger is overflowing, your ability to adapt to training shrinks. That's why two identical workouts can have completely different recovery times, depending on what's happening in the rest of your life. Managing stress doesn't mean eliminating every challenge. It means building habits that let your system downshift when it's time to recover. Daily walks, meditation, journaling, or even just taking time for hobbies you enjoy can lower the baseline tension. Breathing drills and mindfulness practices might sound soft, but they directly affect the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest mode that drives repair. If you treat these habits as seriously as your lifting sessions, you'll notice faster bounce backs and more consistent training results. Think of sleep, nutrition, and stress as the three legs of a stool. Knock one out, and the whole thing wobbles. Get all three in place, and you create the perfect environment for adaptation. This isn't glamorous, which is why people often skip it. They'd rather chase secret techniques or exotic recovery tools, but the truth is, no cryotherapy chamber will fix a 6-hour sleep schedule, and no magic supplement will replace calories you never ate. The payoff for mastering these basics is huge. More energy in your workouts, steadier strength progress, fewer nagging injuries, and a body that's ready to train hard session after session. You won't just recover faster, you'll build a foundation that supports long-term growth instead of short-term bursts, followed by crashes. It's the difference between a program that works for a few weeks and a lifestyle that lets you keep improving for years. So before you worry about fancy add-ons, ask yourself, am I sleeping enough and sleeping well? Am I eating enough total calories and getting a steady supply of protein, carbs, fats, and micronutrients? Am I managing daily stress so my nervous system can actually switch into recovery mode? Answer those questions honestly and fix what needs fixing. Once those boxes are checked, every other recovery tactic you try will work better because the core ingredients are finally in place.